they told me, "Mom, just sit here. We'll be back after check-in." Those were the last words my son, Raphael, said to me, words that shattered my world into 1,000 pieces. I sat in that cold airport chair in Guarulhos for hours, watching families embrace, say goodbye, and reunite, while I sat there like a fool, waiting for a son who never planned to come back for me. 3 hours ago, I was the happiest mother in the world, 42 years raising Raphael, dreaming of a family trip that would finally bring us together. 40 years working as a seamstress, saving every penny. Every stitch sewn was a promise of a better life and a proud family. Yet here I was, abandoned, betrayed. As the minutes turned into hours, my heart clenched, questions fighting to tear me apart. Was it truly a gift? Or a cruel lie? How could the son I nursed, protected, and sacrificed for become the same hands that robbed me of my future? Before we dive into this story of betrayal and unexpected strength, tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. We want to hear your story. Now, settle in. This is a journey of heartbreak, resilience, and the fight to reclaim dignity. Before we start, please let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. Enjoy the video. For 67 years, my life was a quiet one, stitched together like the dresses I sewed with my own hands. 40 years of early mornings, late nights, every seam a sacrifice, every penny saved for a hope, my son, Raphael. The dream was simple, a life that would make him proud. But beneath that dream was a loneliness that deepened with each passing year since my husband's death. A house filled with memories, yet empty of warm voices, save for the occasional call from Raphael and his wife, Patricia. I was used to hiding my pain behind a smile, pretending everything was fine as the world moved on without me. Yet, in my heart, I held on to one fragile hope, that someday we would be a family again. When Raphael invited me on a trip to Fernando de Noronha, my first time traveling outside this country, that hope surged like a renewed flame. His smile, so much like his father's, told me this was real. As I dressed with care that morning, wearing my best green dress, I felt a thrill I hadn't known in years. Patricia had her soft voice, assuring me that everything was taken care of, urging me to rest while they handled the tedious check-in. Raphael's gentle hands carried my pink suitcase, as if weighing it against his promise to protect me. I smiled, feeling blessed, a mother finally about to share a precious journey with her son and daughter-in-law. But beneath the warmth, a shadow stirred, doubts I buried deep. I had trusted Raphael to manage everything, to never betray me. Yet an uneasy pang gnawed at my soul. Was I wrong to believe in the man who had grown from the boy I once cradled? While I rested in the airport chair, watching families reunite in joyful embraces, my own heart grew heavier. Minutes stretched into hours. I searched the crowd expectantly, clinging to their silhouettes with each passing second. My calls went unanswered, my messages unread, as they seemingly disappeared beyond my reach. The quiet ache turned to a piercing stab of betrayal. 4 hours spent waiting for a family that wasn't coming back. Enter Estella, a woman with tired eyes but a fierce compassion. Her presence was unexpected, a balm to my breaking spirit. With calm hands and a steady voice, she asked my name, listened to my fragmented story, and refused to let me be invisible. As I shared my fears, my hopes dashed, she took a stand beside me. Now, I was not just a lonely mother abandoned in an airport. I was a woman whose pain was recognized, whose story mattered. Together with Estella, this startling day marked the beginning of a reckoning, a journey from silent suffering to fierce self-discovery. But this is just the beginning. Because what followed was a revelation, a betrayal more bitter than abandonment, one that shattered not only my heart but my very foundation. Join me as I unravel the truth, piece by painful piece, and find the strength to reclaim my life and dignity. The air was heavy with the hum of travelers, the announcements weaving through the terminals in Portuguese and English. But in the midst of the bustling crowd, I sat frozen in a stark, unyielding seat. Hours had passed, yet my son and daughter-in-law were nowhere to be seen. I clutched my worn purse tightly, the pink suitcase still by my side, a silent witness to the promise made and soon broken. In those first moments after they left to check in, my heart fluttered with anticipation. I was the mother of the happiest moment imaginable. Soon, we would be together on a trip that symbolized all I had ever sacrificed for. Yet, as minutes slipped into an unbearable hour, the flutter turned to a desperate ache. My eyes flicked repeatedly toward the check-in counter, hoping to catch a glimpse of Raphael and Patricia's familiar figures. Instead, I was met with a sea of strangers, each with their stories, their journeys, none of which included me. I forced a smile each time an older couple passed, imagining that soon it would be our turn to share such warmth, to make memories together. But the void inside tightened, gnawing at my soul. After 2 hours, my legs numbed and my stomach twisted with a dull, persistent pain. Rising from the chair for the first time, I approached the airline counter, searching frantically for them. The woman behind the desk, with her indifferent eyes fixed on the screen, barely registered my words. "Have you seen a young man and a woman come through recently? Rafael Silva and Patricia Souza." My voice was brittle, my hope fragile. The reply was vague, a dismissive shrug of bureaucracy. My trembling fingers gripped my phone, the device that had been silent, mocking my pleas. Calling Raphael, the cheerful voice message cruelly contrasted with the storm raging inside me. My texts went unanswered. My anxiety deepened. It was in that moment, sitting alone amid the constant ebb and flow of joyous reunions and hurried goodbyes, that realization struck with the force of a thunderclap. They hadn't gone to check in as they promised. They had fled, without me, without a backward glance, taking with them not only the trip, but the trust one had sewn like threads through my life. My sobs broke free after years of holding them back, the sharp sting of betrayal carving deep lines across my face. Just then, a gentle voice disturbed my despair. Estella, a woman who seemed to embody both strength and empathy, sat beside me. Her presence was a lifeline, a reminder that even in abandonment, compassion could find a way through the darkness. She didn't ask for explanations. She simply understood the crushing weight I carried. Together, we began to piece together the fractures of that day. Beyond the physical absence was a deeper, more painful absence, a rupture in love and loyalty. Within this torment, memories surfaced. Raphael as a child, small hands clinging to my dress on his first day of school, his dreams once so pure and untainted. The man before me had changed into a stranger who promised safety but handed me betrayal. As I grappled with the cold truth, Estella's calm voice offered a faint spark, a promise to help me navigate this storm. But even as hope flickered, the pain of loss thrummed with relentless echo, each tick of the airport clock marking time lost, love broken. The unfolding story does not end here. Because the abandonment at the airport was just the first blow in a deeper betrayal, a betrayal that would force me to confront not only the fractures in my family, but the strength I never knew I possessed. As the tears fell, blurring my vision, trembling hands opened my old phone's banking app, the one connection I still had to the life I built with my own hard-earned savings. My heart hammered as I scrolled through a litany of transfers, and a wave of cold disbelief crashed over me. 480,000 reais gone, vanished. Stolen and cold, deliberate acts disguised as family emergencies. Each withdrawal felt like a betrayal cut deeper than any wound. 50,000 for luxury hotels, 30,000 for spa days, 40,000 for first-class flights, thousands more for exclusive tours and shopping sprees. My money, my life's work, given away in reckless indulgence. I sat frozen, the weight of their betrayal pressing down like a storm. Not just thieves, but my own son and daughter-in-law, people I had cradled, loved, trusted to care for me in my old age. The man I nursed, the child I raised, now the predator who had emptied the nest without a second thought. Beside me, Estella's presence steadied the shaking core of my being. Quiet but fierce, she helped me sift through the unbearable truth, reminding me this was not just theft of money, but a theft of faith and family. Amid ruin, a fire kindled inside, a rage cold and sharp, but also a desperate strength. Suddenly, there was a flicker of hope, a hidden savings account, one they did not know about, still holding 30,000 reis. Just enough to keep me afloat, but painfully insufficient to restore what was lost, yet a symbol of my grit and foresight. Estella insisted we act immediately, moving that last shred of security to a new, undisclosed account, blocking all access, and beginning the fight to reclaim what was taken. This was no longer about being a victim. It was about standing up when all seemed lost. My mind raced through memories, the furtive glances from Patricia, the awkward questions from Raphael about how much I'd saved, their quiet conversations behind closed doors. How long had they planned this? How long had they deemed me a fool, an obstacle to their desires? Alongside Estella, I embraced a dawning understanding. This betrayal, this devastation, was the crucible that would forge a new self, a woman no longer defined by trust, but by the fierce will to protect her dignity and rebuild her life on her own terms. Sitting in the sterile airport office, my hands trembling yet determined, I realized this was no longer just about loss. It was about reclaiming control, about standing up and making them understand that betrayal carries a price. The pain was fierce, but beneath it swelled a quiet fury, a force I never knew I had. Alongside Estella, my unexpected ally, a plan took shape, calculated, deliberate, and deeply personal. As Estella dialed her contacts, I peered out the window at the restless crowds, feeling the weight of every moment spent waiting alone, abandoned. Her voice was steady, filled with the experience of battles fought for countless women like me, women betrayed and underestimated. "We'll track them," she said, "trace every transaction, monitor every step they take with your money." I pictured them, Raphael and Patricia, living their stolen luxury, the grandeur of a presidential suite, champagne flutes clinking in a French restaurant overlooking the sea, laughter above the gentle crash of waves. Yet I knew their feast would soon ring hollow, their confidence eroded by the shadows of consequences. Options lay before us. We could let the banks handle it, passive and distant. Or we could strike closer, calling the hotel, introducing ourselves not as victims, but as relentless forces they must face. The thought sent a shiver through me, not of fear, but of power dawning. Then came the strategy one embraced with trembling determination: psychological justice. Anonymously, notes would arrive in their suite, chilling reminders that their actions had been seen, that shadows lurked in paradise. Messages crafted not to whisper, but to scream. Mothers are not as naive as you think. We know. We remember. The words burned inside me, mingling the scar of betrayal with newfound steel. These messages would gnaw at their peace, dissolve their bravado, leaving them as vulnerable as I had been that lonely morning. But this was more than revenge. It was a declaration. I refused to be a defeated old woman, abandoned and silenced. I was rising, fierce and unyielding. When Estella handed me the phone to confront Raphael, I felt a surge, electric and raw. The man who had abandoned me now greeted my voice with shock and fear. I spoke calmly, yet each word carried the weight of decades, the sacrifices, the love twisted into theft. Their feeble excuses barely masked the truth. Their desperation was palpable, but so was my resolve. I told them they would experience abandonment as I had, stripped of resources, left to navigate uncertainty and helplessness. A bitter laugh escaped me, born not of cruelty, but of reclaimed strength. They needed to understand. This was no longer their world to control. And as I ended that call, a wave of adrenaline pulsed through me. I was no longer prey. I was a force. The sun rose gently over the mountains of Petropolis, casting golden light over a house no longer hollow, but brimming with hard-won peace. I sat on the porch with a cup of coffee warming my hands, a quiet smile playing at the corners of my lips. This was my sanctuary, no longer a place of loss, but a symbol of resilience and newfound freedom. The journey to this moment had been brutal. Betrayal had shattered the fragile bonds I once called family, and the wound cut deep, so deep it threatened to consume every part of me. Yet through that darkness, a seed of strength had taken root, a fierce, unyielding will to reclaim my life, my identity, and my dignity. Estella, my steadfast companion since that terrible day at the airport, brought light into the shadows. More than a helper, she became my sister in arms, offering unwavering support and shared purpose. Together, we transformed pain into power, despair into action. With the money I reclaimed, hard-fought and returned through the reluctant hands of Raphael and Patricia, I bought this modest home. It wasn't grand, nor a monument of luxury, but it was mine, built on the foundations of self-respect and careful determination. Each brick, each brushstroke of paint on these walls echoed a promise. I would live by my own terms. Art became my refuge and voice. Under the patient guidance of Valentin, a retired artist whose eyes saw potential where others saw only age, I poured my soul onto canvases. Each stroke was a journey from bitterness toward beauty, a declaration that my story, my truth, was worthy of expression. And beyond the walls of my home, I found purpose in helping others, volunteering at shelters for women battered by violence and betrayal. My scars, though deeply etched, became a bridge to those lost in darkness. I understood their pain, their confusion, and I offered not just empathy, but a testament to the possibility of healing and reinvention. The relationship with Raphael and Patricia remained complicated, visits carefully measured, boundaries firmly drawn. Their apologies often mingled with tears and empty promises, but I had learned to shield my heart from manipulation. I no longer saw them as my only family, but as individuals accountable to the respect I commanded. Aurora, my sister-in-law, became a cherished friend, a witness to my transformation, praising my courage to rise from ashes that once threatened to bury me. Our friendship, unexpected and enduring, was a reminder that family is not just blood, but the bonds we choose and nurture. When Raphael called recently with news of an impending granddaughter, a girl named Hope, I felt a flicker of cautious optimism. But the terms were clear. Any reunion, any connection, would be under my rules, my timing. The months that followed were filled with cautious steps, tentative voices, and the difficult dance of rebuilding fractured ties. My home, once a place of solitude and hurt, became a space where new rules were quietly but firmly laid down, boundaries born from betrayal but inspired by a fierce desire for self-preservation. Visits from Raphael and Patricia were sparing, measured by the ticking clock and unspoken limits. They arrived with apologies wrapped in tears and pleas for forgiveness, but I was no longer the woman who would surrender effortlessly. I had learned that love alone cannot mend wounds inflicted by deceit, and trust must be earned, not demanded. Aurora, my sister-in-law, took on a new role, a confidant who understood the complex web of emotions spiraling inside me. Her steady presence was a balm, offering perspective and reminding me that family is more than blood. It is about respect, accountability, and shared growth. Each encounter tested the fragile balance between compassion and wariness. Patricia's dramatic apologies clashed with Raphael's subdued remorse, both struggling beneath the weight of their guilt and the consequences of their choices. I held my ground, voice calm yet resolute, insisting that any future connection would follow my terms, no manipulations, no tolerance for old patterns. This was more than a boundary, it was my manifesto. I was reclaiming autonomy not just over my finances, but over my heart. The promise of reconciliation was not a given but a possibility to be earned slowly, guarded by the scars of experience. Yet, amid these tensions, a surprising thread of healing wove its way through. The news of a granddaughter named Hope stirred a complex cocktail of emotions, hope itself, tinged with caution. I embraced this new life with open arms but on my own schedule, mindful that love must coexist with strength. These evolving dynamics reshaped my understanding of family, Not perfect, often painful, but real and resilient. I was learning to protect my peace while allowing space for change, a delicate balance between holding on and letting go.